murder, the police are anxious to interview a man seen in the vicinity wearing a dark overcoat, light scarf, and soft felt hat. Motorists are warned against ice-bound roads. The heavy snow is expected to continue, and throughout the country there will be a certain freezing, particularly at points on the north and northeast coast of Scotland.
Mrs. Barlow! Mrs. Barlow? Oh, it's cold. It really does look nice. Ugh, how stupid of Giles.
Molly! Molly! Molly, where are you?
Doing all the work, you brute.
Oh, there you are. Leave it all to me. Shall I stoke that?
Done.
Your nose is cold.
I've just come in.
Why, where have you been? Surely you haven't been up in this weather.
I had to go to the village for some stuff I'd forgotten. Did you get the chicken netting?
It wasn't the right kind. I went to another dump, but it wasn't any good either. Practically the whole day wasted. I'm frozen. Oh, it's getting like anything. And the snow's really coming down thick. See, it better not be snowed up tomorrow.
I do hope not. If only the pipes don't freeze.
Have to just keep the central heating well stoked. Not too good. I wish they'd send the cook along. Not got any too much.
I do so want everything to go well at first. First impressions are so important.
Is everything ready? Nobody's arrived yet, I suppose?
No, thank goodness. Everything's in order. Mrs. Barlow hooked it early. Afraid of the weather, I suppose.
Nuisance these daily women are. That leaves everything on your shoulders.
And yours. This is a partnership.
So long as you don't ask me to cook.
Oh, no, no. That's my department. Anyway, got all the tins in case we're all snowed up. Oh, Giles, do you think it's going to be all right?
Got cold feet, have you? Are you sorry we didn't sell the place when your aunt left it to you? Instead of having this mad idea of running it as a guest house?
No, I love it. And talking of a guest house, just look at that.
Pretty good, what?
It's a disaster. Don't you see? You left at the S. Monkweather instead of Monksweather.
So I did. However did I come to do that? But it really doesn't matter. Monkwell is just as good a name.
You're in disgrace. Go stoke up the central heating.
Cross that icy yarn. Shall I bake it up for the night now?
Oh, no. You don't do that until 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, Wally.
Now, do hurry up. Someone may come any minute now.
You've got all the rooms worked out.
Yes. Mrs. Boyle, front floor, first room. Major Mickford, blue room. Miss Casewell, east room. And Mr. Wren in the oak room.
I wonder what all these people will be like. Oughtn't we to have gotten rent in advance?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
We're out of the monks of this game.
They bring the luggage. If they don't pay, they simply hold on to their luggage. That simply.
I still can't help thinking we should have taken a correspondence course. We should get had in some way. Their luggage may be just bricks wrapped up in newspapers. Where would we be then?
Don't roll from good addresses.
It's what servants with forged references do. Some of these people may be criminals, heading for the police.
I don't care what they are, so long as they pay us 7 guineas a week.
Such a wonderful woman at business, Molly.
Oh.
My taxi gave up at your gate. Wouldn't attempt to drive. No sporting instinct. Are you Mrs. Ralston? How delightful. My name's Wren.
How do you do, Mr. Wren?
You're not at all as I had pictured you. I've been thinking of you as a retired general's widow. Indian Army. I thought you'd be terrifically grim and most huge. And that this whole place would be simply crowned with Finesse brass. Instead, it's heavenly. Quite heavenly. Lovely proportions. That's a fake. This table's genuine. I'm simply going to love this place. Have you got any wax flowers or birds of paradise?
I'm afraid not.
What a pity. What about a sideboard? A purple plum and mahogany sideboard with great solid coffee fruits on it.
Yes, we have, in the dining room.
In here? I must see it. Yes, I love it. I love it.
Do come in and warm yourself.
Absolutely perfect. Real bedrock respectability. But why do we set a mahogany table? Little tables just spoil the effect.
We thought the guests would prefer them. This is my husband.
How do you do? It's terrible weather, isn't it? Takes one back to Dickens and Scrooge. And that irritating Tiny Tim. So bogus. Of course, Mrs. Ralston, you were right about the little tables. I was being carried away by my feelings for period. If you had a mahogany dining table, you'd have to have the right family around it. Stern, handsome father with a beard, a prolific, faded mother, 11 children of sorted ages, a grim governess, and somebody called Poor Harry, the poor relation who acts as General Dog's buddy, and is very, very grateful for being given a good home.
I'll take your suitcase up for you. Oak room, did you say?
Yes.
Oh, I do hope it's got a full poster with little tin roses.
It hasn't.
I don't think your husband's going to like me much. How long have you been married? Are you very much in love?
We've been married just a year. Perhaps you'd like to go up and see a room.
Ticked off! But I do so like knowing about people. I mean, I think people are so mildly interesting, don't you?
I suppose some are and some are not.
No, I don't agree. They're all interesting. Because you never quite know what anyone is really like, or what they're really thinking. For instance, you don't know what I'm thinking about now, do you?
Not in the least.
You see, the only people who know what other people are like are artists. They don't know why they know it, but if they're portrait painters, it comes out on canvas.
Are you a painter?
No, I'm an architect. My parents, you know, baptized me Christopher in hope that I'd be an architect. Christopher Wren. As good as halfway home. Actually, of course, people laugh and make jokes about St. Paul's. However, who knows? I may yet have the last laugh. Chris Wren's prefabness may yet go down in history. I'm going to like it here. I find your wife most sympathetic.
Indeed.
And really very beautiful.
Oh, don't be absurd.
There, isn't that like an English woman? Compliments always embarrass them. European women take compliments as a matter of course. But English women have all the feminine spirit crushed out of them by the husbands. There's something very boorish about English husbands.
Oh, come up and see a room.
Shall I?
Can you stock up the hot water boiler? This is Moxford Manor, I presume.
Yes.
I'm Mrs. Boyle.
I'm Giles Ralston. Come in and get warm by the fire, Mrs. Boyle. Awful weather, isn't it? Is there any more luggage?
A Major Metcalf has seen to it.
I'll leave the door for it.
The taxi wouldn't risk coming up the drive. It stopped at the gate. We had to share a taxi from the station. And there's a great deal of difficulty in getting that. No one ordered to meet us, it seems.
Sorry, Mrs. Boyle. We didn't know what train you'd be coming by. You see, of course there would have been someone standing.
All trains should have been met.
Let me take your coat. My wife will be down in a moment. Just go and give Metcalf a hand with the bags.
But the drive might at least have been cleared of snow. Most offhand and casual, I must say. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Ralston. Yes, You are young. Young? Well, to be running an establishment of this kind, you can't have had much experience. There has to be a beginning for everything, hasn't there? I see. Quite an experience. It's an old house. Hope you haven't got, dry rot. Certainly not. Well, those people don't know that they have dry rot until it's much too late to do anything about it. This house is in perfect condition. Could do with a coat of paint. Miss Ralston, there's worm in this oak.
Major. This is my wife.
How do you do? Absolute blizzard outside. Thought at one time we shouldn't make it. Oh, beg your pardon. If it keeps up like this, I'll say you'll have 5 or 6 feet of snow by morning. Haven't seen anything like this since I was on leave in 1940.
I'll take these up. Which rooms did you say? Blue room and rose room?
No, I put Mr. Wren in the rose room. He liked the hall poster so much. So it's Mrs. Boyle in the oak room and Major Maycap in the blue room.
Major. Sir.
Have you much servant difficulty here? We have quite a good local woman who comes in from the village. And what, indoor stuff? No indoor staff, just us. Indeed. I understood this was a guest house in full running order. We're only just starting. Well, I would have said that a proper staff of servants was essential before starting this kind of an establishment. I consider your advertisement was most misleading. Am I the only guest, other than Major Metcalf, that is? Oh, no. They're certainly here. And this weather, a blizzard no less. Oh, very unfortunate. Well, we couldn't very well foresee the weather.
The north wind doth blow, and it will bring snow. And what will the robin do then? I adore nursery rhymes, don't you? Always so tragic and macabre. That's why children like them.
Mr. Wren, may I introduce Mrs. Boyle? How do you do?
This is a very beautiful house, don't you think so?
I've come to a time in my life when the amenities of an establishment are far more important than its appearance. Had I not believed this is a full of any concern, I should never have come here.
There is no obligation for you to stay here if you are not satisfied, Mrs. Boyle.
No, indeed, and I should not think of doing so.
If there has been any misapprehension, it would perhaps be better if you went elsewhere. I could ring up for the taxi to return. The roads are not yet blocked. We have had so many applications for rooms, it will be quite easy to fill your spot. In any case, we are raising our terms next month.
You certainly don't think I'm going to leave before I've tried what the place is like. You needn't think you can turn me out now. Perhaps you'll show me to my room. Mrs. Ralston. Certainly, Mrs. Boyle. Darling, you're a wonder.
I think that's a perfectly horrible woman. Don't like her at all. I'd love to see you turn around. So for a ride.
It's a pleasure I'll have to forego, I'm afraid. Another one. Come in, come in.
My
car's fault about half a mile down the road. Ran into a drift.
Let me take this. Any more luggage in the car?
No, I travel light. Oh, glad to see you've got a good fire.
Mr. Wren, Miss...
Casewell.
My wife will be down in a minute.
No hurry. Got to get myself thawed out. Looks as though you're going to be snowed up here. Weather forecast says heavy falls expected. Motorists warned, etc. Hope you've got plenty of provisions in.
Oh, yes, my wife's an excellent manager. Anyway, we could always eat our hens.
Before we start eating each other, eh?
Any news in the paper? Apart from the weather?
Usual political crisis. Oh yes, and a rather juicy murder.
A murder? I like murder.
They seem to think it was a homicidal maniac. Shot a woman somewhere near Paddington. Sex maniac, I suppose.
Doesn't say much, does it? The police are anxious to interview a man seen in the vicinity of Culver Street at the time. Medium height, wearing darkish coat, lighted scarf, and soft felt hat. Police messages to this point have been broadcast throughout the day.
Useful description. Fit pretty well anyone, wouldn't it?
Oh, when it says that the police are anxious to interview a man, is that a polite way of painting that he's the murderer?
Could be.
Who's the woman murdered?
Mrs. Lyon, Mrs. Maureen Lyon.
Young or old?
It doesn't say. It doesn't seem to have been robbery.
I told you. Sex maniac.
Here's Miss Casewell, Molly. My wife.
How do you do?
It's an awful night. Would you like to come up and see your room? The water's hot if you'd like to take a bath.
You're right, I would.
On guard! Hello. Hello. Hello.
I must hurry into the kitchen and get on with things. Letting that kiss seems all right. It won't be difficult. Miss Boyle, that really frightens me. We must have a nice dinner. I was thinking of opening 2 tins of minced beef and cereal, and a tin of peas, and mashing the potatoes, and there's stewed figs and custard. Do you think that'll be all right?
I should think so. Not very original, perhaps.
Do let me help. I adore turkey. Why not an omelet? You've bought eggs, haven't you?
Oh, yes, we got plenty of eggs. We keep lots of fowls. They don't lay as well as they should, but we do put down a lot of eggs.
And if you got a bottle of cheap, any type wine, you could add it to your minced beef and cereal, you say. Give it a continental flavor. Show me where the kitchen is, and I dare say I shall have an inspiration.
Come on. Isn't he sweet? You put on an apron and he's getting all the things together. He says leave it to him and don't come back for half an hour. If our guests want to do the cooking themselves, it will save a lot of trouble.
Why on earth did you give him the best room?
I told you, like the four-poster.
Like the pretty four-poster. Work.
Oh, giants.
I've got no use for that guy. You didn't handle his suitcase, I did.
Had he got bricks in it?
No, it was of no weight at all. If you ask me, it was probably empty. Anyway.
You know what? I don't believe you. I like him. Anyway, I think this case was rather peculiar, don't you?
Time for a female. If she is a female.
It seems awfully hard that our guest should be either unpleasant or odd. Anyway, I think Major Mick is all right, don't you?
Hopefully drinks.
Do you think so?
No, I was just feeling rather depressed. Anyway, you know the worst of it. They've all arrived.
Who could that be?
Probably the Culver Street murder.
Oh, don't!
Oh. £1,000. I am. Well, where am I?
This is Monkswell Manor Guest House.
What a stupendous good fortune. Men, but what an answer to prayer. A guest house in a charming hostess. I'm like, all right, alas, it's driving to a snowdrift. Grinding snow everywhere. I do not know where I am. I think to myself, and such I shall praise. To death. So, I take a little man, I step through the swimming pool. Before me I see big iron gates. I have a station. I'm safe. Twice I fall into the snow, they come into dry. But at last I arrive, and immediately despair turns to joy. You cannot be in our room, yes?
Yes.
Yes, it's a rather small one, I'm afraid.
Naturally, you have a gate.
Yes, we just opened this place as a guest house today, so we're rather new at it.
Chad,
What about your luggage?
that is of no consequence. I have locked it securely in the car.
Wouldn't it be better to get it in?
I can assure you, on such a night as this, there will be no thieves abroad. And as for me, my work is very simple. I have all that I need in this little bag. Yes, all that I need.
You better keep thoroughly warm. I'll see about your room. It's a awfully cold room because it faces the north, but all the others are occupied.
You have several guests then?
Yes, there's Mrs. Boyle and Major Mitcliffe and Miss Casewell and a young man called Christopher Wren. And now you.
Yes. The unexpected guest. The guest that you did not invite. The guest who has just arrived from nowhere, out of the storm. Sounds quite dramatic, does it not? Who am I? You do not know. Where do I come from? You do not know. Me? I am a man of mystery. But now I tell you this, I complete the picture. From by tomorrow, perhaps even already, we are cut off from all civilization. No butcher, no baker, no postman, no milkman, no daily papers, nobody and nothing but ourselves. That is admirable. It could not suit me better. My name, by the way, is Paravicini.
Oh, yes, ours is Ralston.
Mr. and Mrs. Ralston. And this is Monkswell Manor Guest House, you said? Yes, Monkswell Manor Guest House. Perfect. Perfect.
Excellent breakfast this morning. Good coffee, homemade marmalade, and scrambled eggs. All nicely served too. Little woman does it all herself.
Amateurs. There should be a proper stop.
Yeah, excellent lunch too.
Corned beef.
Ah, but very well disguised corned beef. Red wine in it. Mrs. Ralston promised to make a pie for us tonight.
These rooms aren't very warm. I shall speak of it.
Very comfortable beds too. At least mine was. Hope yours was too.
It was quite adequate. But I don't see why they had to give the best bedroom to that very peculiar young man.
Got here ahead of us. First come, first served.
But from the advertisement, I got a much different idea of what this whole place would be like. A much larger place with great other amenities.
Regular Tabby's delight.
I beg your pardon.
Yes, I quite see what you mean.
No, I shan't stay here long.
No. I don't suppose you will.
It's a very peculiar young man. Unbalanced mentally, I shouldn't wonder.
I think he's escaped from a lunatic asylum.
Well, I shouldn't be at all surprised. Giles, can you shovel the snow when you came from the back door?
Coming.
I'll give you a hand what? Good exercise. Must have exercise.
Oh, sorry. That's all right. Reed, what's an incredible young woman? Carrying the carpet sweeper through the front halls. Doesn't she know anything about housework? Are there any back stairs?
Oh yes, nice backstairs. Very convenient if there was a fire.
Then why not use them? Anyway, all the housework should have been done in the morning before lunch.
I gather our hostess had to cook the lunch.
All very unpleasant and church, if you ask me. There should be a proper staff.
Not very easy to get nowadays, is it?
No, indeed. The lower classes seem to have no idea of their responsibilities.
Poor old lower classes. Got the bit between their teeth, haven't they?
I gather you're a socialist.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I'm not a red, just pale pink. But I don't take much interest in politics. I live abroad.
I suppose conditions are much easier abroad.
I don't have to cook and clean as I gather most people have to do in this country.
Well, this country has gone sadly downhill. I had to sell my house last year. Everything was too difficult.
Hotels and guest houses are easier.
But they certainly seem to solve some of one's problems. Are you over in England for long?
Depends. I've got some business to see to. When it's done, I shall go back.
To France?
No.
Italy?
No.
Would you mind turning that down a bit? I find the radio rather distracting when one's trying to read.
Do you?
Meg!
Turn it down a bit.
That on what?
Oh, yes. It served its purpose.
What purpose?
Tactics, boy.
Oh, you mean her?
She picked the best chair. I got it now.
You drove her out? I'm glad. I'm very glad. I don't like her at all. I wish she'd go away from me. Let's think of things we can do to annoy her, shall we? Wish she'd go away from me.
In this, I hope.
But when the snow melts.
When the snow melts, lots of things may have happened.
Yes, it's quite true. The snow's rather lovely, isn't it? It's so peaceful and pure. It makes one forget things.
Doesn't make me forget.
How fierce you sound.
I was thinking.
What sort of thing?
Ice on a bedroom jug, chilblains wrong bleeding, one thin ragged blanket, a child shivering from cold and fear.
My dear, it sounds too grim. What is it, a novel?
You didn't know I was a writer, did you?
Are you?
Sorry to disappoint you. Actually, I'm not.
Yes? Yes, this is Monkswell Manor Guest House. Who? I'm afraid Mr. Ralston can't come to the telephone just now. This is Mrs. Ralston speaking. What? The Berkshire Police? Yes, yes, Superintendent Hoppin. I'm afraid that's impossible. He'll never get here. We're snowed out, completely snowed out. Very well. But... Hello? Hello?
Molly, do you know where there's another spade?
Giles, the police have just rung up.
Trouble with the police, eh? Serving liquor without a license.
They say that they're sending out an inspector or sergeant or something.
But he'll never get here.
That's what I said. But he seemed quite confident that he would.
Nonsense. Not even a jeep could get through in this. Anyway, what's it all about?
That's what I asked. But he said that I was to impress upon my husband to listen carefully to what Sergeant Trotter, I think it was, had to say, and to follow his instructions implicitly. Isn't that extraordinary?
What on earth do you think we've done?
Do you think it's those nylons from Gibraltar?
I did remember to get the wireless license, didn't I?
Yes, it's in the kitchen dresser.
I had a rather new shave with a car the other day. Oh, but it was entirely the other fellow's fault.
You must have done something.
Probably something to do with running this place. Some tin-pot regulation of some ministry. You practically can't avoid it now.
Oh, dear. I wish we never started this place. We're going to be snowed out for days, and everyone's cross, and we shall run through all our reserves of tins.
Oh, cheer up, darling. Everything's going all right at the moment. I filled up all the coal scuttles and brought in the wood and stoked the agate and done the hens. And next I'll go and do the boiler and chop some kindling. You know, Molly, come to think of it, must be something really serious to send a sergeant trekking out in all this. Must be something really urgent.
Huh? Hey, well, Mr. Ralston. Are you aware that the central heating in the library is practically stone cold?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Boyle, but we're a bit short on coke.
I am paying 7 guineas a week here. 7 guineas. And I don't want to freeze.
I'll go stoke it up.
Mrs. Ralston, if you don't mind my saying so, that's a very peculiar or nearly is one, so it turned out all right. Sounds a fishy story to me. I should make some inquiries about him if I were you. What do you know of him?
Just as much as I know about you, Mrs. Boyle, that you're paying us 7 guineas a week. That's all I really need to know, isn't it? And all that concerns me. It doesn't matter to me if I like my guess or whether I don't.
You are young and inexperienced and should welcome the advice from someone more knowledgeable than yourself. And what of this foreigner?
What about him?
You weren't expecting him, were you?
To turn away a bona fide traveler is against the law, Mrs. Boyle. You should know that.
Well, what do you mean?
Weren't your Majesty sitting on the bench, Miss Boyle?
Well, all that I'm saying is that this Paravicini, whatever he calls...
lady. You talk of the devil, Granger. Here he is.
I didn't hear you come in.
I came in on tiptoe. Like this. Nobody ever hears me. If I do not want them to, I find it very easy.
Indeed.
There once was a man from Nantucket.
Well, I must get on with my book. See if it's a bit warmer in the drawing room.
My traveling hostess looks upset. What is it, dear?
Everything's rather difficult because of the snow.
Yes. Snow does tend to make things difficult. Or else it makes them easy. Yes. Quite easy.
I don't know what you mean.
No. That is quite a business that you do not know. I think for one thing, you do not know very much about the running guest house.
I dare say we don't, but we may make a go of it.
Bravo.
Not such a very bad cook.
You are without a doubt an enchanting cook. And may I give you a little word of warning, Mrs. Brown? You and your husband should not be too trusting. Have you references for these guests of yours?
It's as usual. I thought people just came.
It is advisable to know a little about the people who sleep under your roof. Take, for example, myself. I show up saying my character for the kind of his novels. What do you know of me? Nothing at all. I may be a thief, a runner, a fugitive from justice, a madman, even a man. You see? And perhaps you know just a little of your other cases.
Well, as far as Mrs. Boyle goes, I know...
The drawing room is far too cold to sit in. I shall finish my book in here.
Allow me to poke the fire for you.
Excuse me, Mrs. Ralston, is your husband about? I'm afraid the pipes of the downstairs cloakroom are frozen.
Oh, dear. What's the police in the house?
Police.
Police, did you say?
They're really not. To say that they're sending a sergeant out here. But I don't think he'll ever get here.
The ruddy coat's more than half cold.
And the price? Hello? Anything the matter?
I hear the police are on their way here. Why?
Oh, that's quite all right. No one will get through in this. Why, the roads are all banked up. The drifts must be 5 feet deep. No one will get here today. Excuse me, Mr. Paravicini, may I put these down?
Oh!
Are you Mr. Ralston?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, sir. Detective Sergeant Charter, Berkshire Police. Could I get these skis off and stow them somewhere?
Go around that way to the front door. I'll meet you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I suppose that's what we pay our police force for nowadays. To go around enjoying themselves at winter sports.
Why did you send to the police, Miss Frost?
But I didn't.
Who's that man? Where did he come from? He passed the drawing room window on skis. All over snow and looking terribly hearty.
Well,
Detective Trotter.
Good afternoon.
Well, you can't be a sergeant. You are too young.
Well, I'm not quite so young as I look, madam.
But terribly hearty.
Skis under the stairs.
Excuse me, Mrs. Ross, but may I use your telephone?
Of course, Major Mason.
It's very attractive, don't you think so? I always find the police are quite attractive.
Hello?
See that at a glance.
Hello? Hello? Mrs. Ralston, this telephone is dead. Quite dead.
It was all right just half an hour ago.
Mine's gone with the way of the snow, I suppose.
So, we're quite cut off now. Quite cut off. That's funny, isn't it?
I don't see anything to laugh at.
No, indeed.
It's a private joke of my own. Slip is returning.
Well, now we can get to business. Mr. Ralston, Mrs. Ralston,
Do you want to see us alone so we can go into the library?
no, it's not necessary, sir. We'll save time if everybody's present.
Oh, do hurry up and tell us. What have we done?
Done? Oh, it's nothing of that kind, Mrs. Ralston. It's something quite different. It's more of a matter of police protection, if you understand me.
Police protection?
Yes, it relates to the death of Miss Maureen Lyne of 24 Colbert Street, London, West 2. She was found murdered yesterday, the 15th instant. You may have heard or read about the case.
Yes, I heard it on the wireless. The woman who was shot.
That's right. Now, the first thing I want to know is if you are acquainted with this Miss Lyne.
I never heard of her.
Well, you may have known her under the name of Lyne. Lyne wasn't her real name. She had a police record and her fingerprints were on file, so we were able to identify her without difficulty. Her real name was Stanning, Maureen Stanning. Her husband, the farmer John Stanning, resided at Longridge Farm, not very far from here.
Longridge Farm. Isn't that where those children...
Yes, the Longridge Farm case.
3 children.
That's right, Miss, the Corlins. 2 boys and a girl, both brought before the court as in need of care and police protection. Well, the home was found for them because of Mrs. Stanning at Longridge Farm. One of the children subsequently died as a result of criminal neglect and persistent ill treatment. The case made a bit of a sensation at the time.
It was horrible.
Well, the Stannings were sentenced for terms of imprisonment. Stanning died in prison and Mrs. Stanning served her sentence and was released. Yesterday, I say, she was found strangled at 24 Colbert Street.
Who did it?
Well, I'm coming to that, madam. Now, a notebook was picked up in the scene of the crime. In that notebook was written 2 addresses. One was 24 Colbert Street, and the other was Monkswell Manor.
What?
Yes, sir. That's why I received this information from Scotland Yard. Superintendent Hubburn thought it imperative for me to come out here and find if you knew of any connection between this house, anyone in this house, and the Longridge Farm case.
There's nothing. Absolutely nothing. It must be a coincidence.
Oh, the superintendent doesn't think it's a coincidence, sir. He did come himself in any way possible. But under these weather conditions, and as I can ski, he sent me with instructions to get full particulars of everyone in the house, to report back to him by phone, and take whatever measures I thought fit to ensure the safety of the household.
Safety? What danger does he think we're in? He's not suggesting that someone is going to be killed here.
Now, I don't mean to frighten any of the ladies, but frankly, yes, that's the idea.
But why?
Well, that's what I'm here to find out.
But the whole thing's crazy.
No, it's because it's crazy that it's dangerous.
Nonsense.
I must say it seems a bit far-fetched.
I think it's wonderful.
Is there something that you haven't told us, Sergeant?
Yes, Mrs. Wilson. Now, below the 2 addresses was the words 3 blind mice. And on the dead woman's body was the note with "This is the first" written on it. And below the words was a drawing of 3 little mice in a bar of music. The music was the tune of the nursery rhyme, 3 blind mice. You know how it goes. 3 blind mice.
3 blind mice, see how they run. Oh, it's horrible.
There were 3 children and 1 died?
Yes, the youngest, a boy of 11.
What happened to the other 2?
Well, the girl was adopted by someone. I haven't been able to trace her yet. And the elder boy would now be about 22. Deserted from the army and has not been heard of since. According to the army psychologist, was definitely schizophrenic. A bit queer, in the head, that's to say.
And I think it was he who killed Miss Lyne. I mean, Miss Stanley.
Yes.
And that this man would turn up here and try to kill someone, but why?
Well, that's what I'm here to find out. Now, you state, sir, you yourself have no knowledge of the Longridge Farm affair?
No.
And does the same go for you, madam?
No, I mean, no connections at all.
I see. And what about servants?
We haven't got any servants.
that's quite all right, Mrs. Wilson. Now, can I have all of your names, please?
This is quite ridiculous. We are merely staying in a kind of hotel. We only just got here yesterday. We have nothing to do with this place.
You'd all planned to come in advance, though. You'd all booked your rooms here in ahead.
Well, yes, all except Mr.
I see. But what I'm getting at is that anybody who's been following you around might know very well you were planning to come here. Now, there's just one thing I want to know, and I want to know it quick. Which one of you is that it has some connection with the business at Longbridge Farm? You're not being very reasonable, you know. One of you is in danger, deadly danger, and I've got to know who that is. All right, I'll ask you one by one. You first. You seem to arrive here more or less by accident, Mr. Perry.
I know nothing of what you've been talking about. I am a stranger in this country. I know nothing of these local affairs for 500 years.
And you, madam?
Really? Well, why should I have anything to do with this distressing business?
And Ms.
Casewell. Leslie Casewell. I never heard of the Longbridge Farm, and I know nothing about it.
And you, sir?
Metcalf, Major. Read about the case in the papers at the time. I was stationed in Edinburgh there. No personal knowledge.
And you?
Christopher Wren. I was a mere child at the time. I don't remember even hearing about it.
And that's all you have to say? Any of you? Well, if one of you gets murdered, you'll have yourself to blame. Now then, Mr. Wren, can I have a look around the house? Yes, I can give you one.
My dears, how melodramatic. He's very attractive, don't you think? I always find the police so stern and hard-boiled. Quite a thrill, this whole business. The 3 blind mice. How does the tune go? 3 blind mice.
Really, Mr. Beck?
Don't you like it? But it's the signature tune. The signature of the murderer. Just fancy what a kick he must be getting out of it.
Melodramatic rubbish. I don't believe a word of it.
But just wait, Mrs. Boyle, until I creep up behind you. And you feel my hands on your throat.
That'll do, Chris, sir. It's a poor joke anyway. In fact, it's not a joke at all.
Ah, but it is. That's just what it is. A madman's joke. It's what makes it so deliciously macabre. If you could just see your faces.
It is a singularly ill-mannered and neurotic young man.
Where's Giles?
Taking our policeman on a conducted tour of the house.
Your young friend, the architect, has been acting most peculiar.
Young fellows seem nervy nowadays. Dare say he'll grow out of it.
Nerves. Well, I've no patience for people who say they have nerves. I haven't any nerves.
No. Perhaps that's just as well for you, Mrs. Boyle.
What do you mean?
I believe you were one of the magistrates on the bench at the time. In fact, you were the one responsible for sending those children to the Longbridge Farm.
Oh, really, Major Metcalf? I can hardly be held responsible. I had reports from welfare workers, and the farm people seemed most anxious to have the children. Eggs and fresh milk, and a healthy outlook towards life.
Kicks, blows, starvation, and a thoroughly vicious couple.
Well, how was I to know? They're very simply spoken.
I was right. It was you.
One tries to do public duty and all one gets is abuse.
Oh, you must excuse me, but I find this all most amusing. Oh, I enjoy myself greatly.
Never did like that man.
Where did he come from last night?
I don't know.
Looks a bit of a spit to me. Makes his face up, too. powder. Disgusting. He must be quite old, too.
And yet he skips as though he is young.
You'll be wanting some more wood. I'll get it.
It's only 4 in the afternoon and yet it's almost dark. Turn the lights on. That's better. Where did I leave my book? What little tune that is?
Don't you like it? Reminds you of your childhood, perhaps? An unhappy childhood?
I was very happy as a child.
You were lucky.
Weren't you?
No.
I'm sorry.
But all that's a long time ago. One gets over things.
I suppose so.
Or doesn't one? Damn hard to say.
They say that what happened to you as a child matters more than anything else.
They say, who says?
Psychologists.
Oh, humbug. Just a damn lot of nonsense. I've no use for psychologists and psychiatrists.
Haven't much to do with them.
A good thing for you, you haven't. It's all a lot of hurry. The whole thing. Life's what you make of it. Go straight ahead and don't look back.
One can't always help looking back. Things happen to you. To make you remember.
Don't give in. Turn your back on them.
I wonder, is that really the right way?
Depends what you're talking about.
Sometimes I hardly know what I'm talking about.
Nothing from the past is going to affect me, except in the way I want it to.
Well, everything's all right upstairs. What's in here? The drawing room?
Would you mind shutting that door? This is really hot.
I'm sorry, madam, but I've got to get the lay of the land. Well, that completes the tour. Nothing suspicious. I think I'll make my report to Superintendent Hogben now.
Oh, but you can't. The telephone's dead.
What? Since when?
Since Major Medford tried it just after you arrived.
But it was all right earlier. Superintendent Hogben got through okay.
Oh, yes. I suppose since then, the lines are done with the snow.
I wonder. It may have been cut.
Cut? But who could cut it?
Just how much do you know about the people staying in your guest house, Mr. Ralston?
We don't really know anything about them. Mrs. Boyle wrote from the Bournemouth Hotel. Major Metcalf from an address in, where was it?
Leamington.
Rang from Hampstead, and the case was removed from a private hotel in Kensington. Paravaccini, as we told you, turned up out of the blue last night. I'm sure they've all got ration books, that sort of thing.
Well, I shall go into all of that, of course, but there's not much reliance to be placed on that sort of evidence.
But even if this maniac is trying to get here and kill us all, or one of us, we're quite safe now with the snow. No one can get here and tell him else.
Unless he's here already.
Here already?
Well, why not? All your guests arrived yesterday evening, some hours after the murder of Mrs. Stanley. Plenty of time to get here.
But except for Paravaccini, they'd all booked beforehand.
Well, why not? These crimes were planned.
But there's only been one crime in Culver Street. What makes you so certain there will be another here?
That it will happen here, no, I hope to prevent that. But that it will be attempted, yes.
I believe it's so fantastic.
It isn't fantastic, it's just facts.
Did you get a description of what this man looked like in London?
Yes. Medium height, indeterminate build, darkish overcoat, soft felt hat. Face was hidden behind a muffler. Spoke in a whisper. There are 3 darkish overcoats hanging in the hall now, Mr. Ralston. One of them is yours. There are 3 lighters felt hands.
Still can't believe it.
You see, it's this telephone line that really worries me. If it's been cut...
I must get into the kitchen and get on with the vegetables.
Is there an extension?
Excuse me, did you say something?
Yes, Mr. Ralston. I said, is there an extension?
Yes, up in our bedroom.
Good. Go and try that there for me, will you? Now then, when I got out of the window to trace the telephone line, you, Mr. Ralston. He went upstairs to the room you and Mrs. Ralston occupied to try the extension telephone. Where were you and Mrs. Ralston screamed?
I was still up in the upstairs bedroom. The extension telephone was dead too. I opened the window to see if I could see anywhere where the wires had been cut, but I couldn't. Just after I shut the window, I heard Molly scream and I rushed out.
Those simple actions took you a rather long time, Mr. Ralston.
I don't think so.
Yes, I should say you definitely took your time over them.
I was thinking about something.
Very well. Now then, Mr. Red, I'll have your account of where you were.
I'd been in the kitchen, seeing if there was anything I could do to help Mrs. Ralston. I had done cooking. After that, I went up to my bedroom. Why? It's quite a natural thing for one to go to one's bedroom, don't you think? I mean, one does want to be alone sometimes.
You went to your bedroom because you wanted to be alone.
And I wanted to brush my hair. And tidy up.
You wanted to brush your hair.
Anyway, that's where I was.
And did you hear Mrs. Ralston scream?
Yes.
And you came running right down.
Yes.
Curious that you and Mr. Ralston didn't meet on the stairs.
I came down by the back stairs, then near to my room.
Did you go up by the back stairs or did you come through here?
I went up by the back stairs.
I see. Mr. Pervicini,
I am told you. I was in the drawing, playing the piano.
I'm not an inspector, just a sergeant, Mr. Pervicini. Now, did anybody hear you playing the piano?
I did not expect so. I was playing very softly. With one finger. Like this.
You were playing Three Blind Mice.
Is that so?
Yes, it is a very catchy little tune. Or shall I say, it is a very haunting little tune. Don't you agree?
I think it's horrible.
And yet it runs in people's heads. Someone was whistling too.
Whistling it? Where?
I am not sure. Perhaps in the front hall, perhaps on the steps, perhaps even in an upstairs bedroom.
Who was whistling Three Blind Mice? Are you making this up, Mr. Pervicini?
No, Inspector. I beg your pardon, Sergeant. I would not do a thing like that.
Well, go on. You were playing the piano.
It's one thing. Then I hear the radio playing very loud. Someone is shouting. And then I hear Mrs. Ralston scream.
Mr. Ralston upstairs, Mr. Wren upstairs, Mr. Pervicini in the drawing room. Miss Hazel?
I was writing letters in the library.
And could you hear what was going on in here?
No, I didn't hear anything until Miss Ralston screamed.
I see. And what did you do then?
I came in here.
At once?
I think so.
You say you were writing letters when you heard Mrs. Ralston scream?
Yes.
And that you got up from the writing desk in the library and hurriedly came in here?
Yes.
Yet, there doesn't seem to be an unfinished letter on the writing desk in the library.
I brought it with me.
Dearest Jessie, a friend or a relation?
That's none of your damn business.
Perhaps not. You know, if I were to hear someone screaming blue murder while I was writing a letter, I don't believe I'd take my time to pick up my unfinished letter, fold it and put it in my handbag before going to see what was the matter.
You wouldn't? How interesting.
Now then, Major Metcalf, you say you were in the cellar. Why?
Looking around. Just looking around. I looked into that cupboard place under the stairs near the kitchen. A lot of junk and sports tackle. But I noticed there was another door inside. I opened it and went on down. Nice cellars you built.
Glad you like them.
Not at all. Crypt of an old monastery, I should say. Probably why this place is called Monkswell.
We are not engaged in antiquarian research, Major Metcalf. We are investigating a murder. Now, Mrs. Wilson has told us she heard a door shut with a faint creak. That particular door shuts with a creak. Yet could we know that after killing Mrs. Boyle, the murderer slipped into the cupboard, pulling the door behind him?
A lot of things could be.
There would be fingerprints on the inside of the cupboard.
Mine are there, all right. But most criminals are careful to wear gloves, aren't they?
It's usual, but all criminals slip up sooner or later.
I wonder, Sergeant, is that really the truth?
Look here, Sergeant. Aren't we wasting time? There's one person... Please, Mr. Ralston, I am in charge of this investigation.
Oh, very well, but...
Mr. Ralston! Thank you. Now, we've got to establish opportunity, you know, as well as motive. And now let me tell you this. You all had opportunity.
I
To the staircases. Anyone could go up by one and come down the other. Anyone could go through the kitchen door and out the trap door that leads to the hall and into here. The vital fact is that every one of you was alone at the time the murder was committed.
You speak as though we're all under suspicion. That's absurd.
In a murder case, everyone is under suspicion.
But you pretty well know who killed that woman in Culver Street. You think it was the eldest of those 3 children at the farm. A mentally abnormal young boy who is now 23 years of age. There's only one person here who fits that bill. It's not true. It's not true. You're all against me. Everyone's always been against me. You're gonna frame me for murder. It's persecution. It's what it is. It's persecution.
Steady, lads, steady.
It's all right, Chris. No one's going to hurt you. Tell him it's all right.
We don't frame people.
Tell him you're not going to arrest
I'm
him.
not arresting anybody. In order to do that, I have to have evidence. And I haven't got any evidence yet.
Molly, I think you're crazy. And you too. There's only one person who fits that bill. And nobody is a safety measure. He ought to be put under arrest. It's only fair to the rest of us.
Wait, Giles, wait. Sergeant Trotter, can I speak with you a minute?
Yes, Mrs. Ralston. Will the rest of you go into the dining room, please?
I'm staying.
No, you too, Giles, please.
I'm staying. Molly, I don't know what's come over you.
Please.
Yes, Mrs. Ralston. What is it you wanted to say to me?
Sergeant Trotter, you think that this killer must be the eldest of those 3 children at the farm. But you don't know that, do you?
We don't actually know a thing. All I've got so far is that the woman who joined in the ill-treating and starving of those children has been killed. And that the woman magistrate responsible for sending them there has been killed. And the telephone that connects me with police headquarters has been cut.
But you don't know that. It may just mean the snow.
No, Mrs. Ralston, the line was deliberately cut. I found the place just out by the front door.
I see.
Sit down, Mrs. Ralston.
But all the same, you don't
Going
know.
by probability, and it all points in one direction. Mental instability, childish mentality, desertion from the army, and the psychiatrist's reports.
Yes, I know, and therefore it all points to Christopher. But I don't believe it is Christopher. There must be other possibilities.
Such as?
Well, hadn't those children any relations at all?
The mother was a drunk. She died soon after the children were taken away.
And what about their father?
The father was an army sergeant serving abroad. Well, if he's alive, he's probably discharged from the army by now.
You don't know where he is now.
No, we have no information, and to trace it may take some time. But I can assure you, Mrs. Ralston, the police take every eventuality into account.
But you don't know where he is this minute. If the son was mentally unstable, the father may have been unstable too.
It's a possibility.
If he came home after being a prisoner, perhaps, and having suffered terribly, if he came home and found his wife dead, and all his children had gone through some terrible experience, and one of them had died through it, he might go off his head a bit and want revenge.
That's only surmise.
But it's possible.
Yes, Mrs. Ralston, it's quite possible.
So, it's not maybe middle-aged, or even old. When I said the police had run out, Major Metcalf seemed awfully upset. He really was. I saw his face.
Major Metcalf.
Middle-aged, a soldier. He seems quite nice and perfectly normal. But I can show. Might it?
No, often it doesn't show at all.
So it's not only Christopher who's a suspect. There's Major Metcalf as well.
Any other suggestions?
Well, Mr. Pavaccini did drop the book when I said the police had run out.
Pavaccini.
I know he seems quite old and foreign and everything, but he mightn't be as old as he looks. He looks like a much younger man. There's definitely got makeup on his face. Miss Case will notice it too. He might be, oh, I know it sounds very melodramatic, but he might be disguised.
You're very anxious, aren't you? But it shouldn't be your young Mr. Wren.
He is helpless somehow and very unhappy.
Mrs. Ralston, I've had all possibilities in mind ever since the beginning. The boy Georgie, the father, there was somebody else. There was a sister, you remember?
Oh?
It could have been a woman who killed Maureen Lyon. A woman. The man's felt hat pulled down and the muffler pulled well up. The killer spoke in a whisper. It's the voice that gives the sex away. Yes, it could have been a woman.
Miss Casewell?
She looks a bit old for the part. Oh, yes, Mrs. Ralston, there's a very wide field. There's yourself, for instance.
Me?
You're about the right age.
Oh, wow.
Whatever you tell me about yourself now, I have no means of checking up on, remember? And then there is your husband.
Oh, Giles, don't be ridiculous.
He and Christopher Wren aren't much of an age. Say your husband looks older than his years and Mr. Wren looks younger. Actual age is very hard to tell. How much do you know about your husband, Mrs. Ralston?
How much do I know about Giles? Oh, don't be silly.
You've been married how long?
Just a year.
And you met him when?
We met in a dance in London. We were in a party.
Did you meet his people?
He hasn't got any people. They're all dead.
They're all dead.
Yes, but... Oh, you make it sound all wrong. His father was a bastard, and his mother died when he was a baby.
You're only telling me what he told you.
Yes.
You don't know it of your own knowledge.
Outrageous!
Mrs. Ralston, you'd be surprised if you knew how many cases rather like yours I get, especially since the war. Homes broken up and families dead. Fellow says he's been in the Air Force or just finished his army training. Parents killed and no relations. There aren't any backgrounds nowadays, and people settle their own affairs, just meet and marry. It's friends and relatives who used to make the inquiries before they consented to an engagement. That's all done away with now. Girl just marries her man. Sometimes she doesn't find out for years if he's an absconding bank clerk or an army deserter or something equally undesirable. How long had you known Giles Ralston before the two of you got married?
3 weeks.
And you don't know anything about him.
That's not true. I know everything about him. I know exactly the sort of person he is. He is Giles. And it's absolutely absurd to suggest that he's some crazy, homicidal maniac. Why, Giles wasn't even in London yesterday when the murder took place.
Where was he, here?
No, he went off in the car to get some chicken wine.
You're only 30 miles from London, you know. He talks in ABC. Only an hour by train, a little less by car.
I tell you, Giles wasn't in London.
Just a minute, Mrs. Ralston. This is your husband's coat.
Yes.
Evening news. Yesterday's. Saw on the streets of London about 3:30 in the afternoon.
I don't believe you.
Don't you? Don't you?
Molly.
Oh, he startled me.
Where is he? Where has he gone?
Who?
The sergeant.
Oh, he went out that way.
If only I could get away. Somehow. Some way. Is there anywhere I can hide? In the house?
Hide?
Yes, from him.
Why?
But, darling, they're all so frightfully against me. They're going to say I committed these murders. Particularly your husband.
Never mind him. Listen, Christopher. You can't go on running away from things all your life.
Why do you say that?
It's true, isn't it?
Yes, it's quite true.
You'll have to grow up sometime, Chris.
I wish I had.
Your real name isn't really Christopher Wren, is it?
No.
And you're not really training to be an architect?
No.
Why did you...
Call myself Christopher Wren? It just amused me. Then they used to laugh at me in school and call me little Christopher Robin. Robin, Wren, an association of ideas. It was hell being at school.
What's your real name?
We needn't go into that. I ran away whilst I was in the army service. It was all so beastly. I hated it. Yes, I'm just like the unknown murderer. I told you I was the one the specification fitted. You see, my mother...
Yes? Your mother?
Everything would have been all right if she hadn't died. She would have taken care of me and looked after me.
You can't go on all your life being looked after. Things happen to you. And you got to bear them. You got to go on just as usual.
One can't do that.
Yes, one can.
You mean you have?
Yes,
What was it? Something very bad?
something that I've never forgotten.
Was it to do with Giles?
No, it was only before I met Giles.
You were very young then. Almost a child.
Yes. Perhaps that's why it was so awful. It was horrible. Horrible. I tried never to think about it. I tried to put it out of my mind.
And so you're running away too. Running away from things instead of facing them.
Yes. Perhaps in a way I am. Considering that I never saw you until yesterday, we seem to know each other rather well.
Yes, it's odd, isn't it?
I don't know. I suppose there's some sort of sympathy between us.
Anyway, you think I ought to stick it out?
Well, frankly, what can you do?
I might pinch the sergeant's skis. I can't ski quite well.
I'd be frightfully stupid. It'd be almost admitting you're guilty.
Sergeant Trotter thinks I'm guilty.
No, he doesn't. At least, I don't know what he thinks. I hate him. I hate him, I hate him.
Who?
Sergeant Trotter. He can put things into your head. Things that aren't true.
What is all this?
I won't believe it. I can't believe it.
Come on, out with it.
You see this?
Yes?
What is it? Yesterday's evening paper. A London paper. It was in Giles' overcoat pocket. But Giles didn't go to London yesterday.
Well, if he was here all day.
But he wasn't. He was off to a cell getting some wiring for our chickens. But he didn't bring any.
Well, that's all right. Probably he did go to London after all.
Then why shouldn't he tell me he did? Why pretend he'd been driving around the countryside?
Perhaps with news of the murder.
He didn't know about the murder. Or did he? Did he?
Molly, surely you don't think. The sergeant doesn't think.
I don't know what the sergeant thinks. He can make you think of things about people. You ask yourself questions and you begin to doubt. About someone you loved and know well. Might be a stranger. That's what happens in a nightmare. You're suddenly in the middle of friends and then you look at their faces and then you know your friends any longer. They're different people. Just pretending. Maybe you can trust anybody. Perhaps they're all strangers.
I seem to be interrupting something.
No, we were just talking. I must go to the kitchen. There's the buying the potatoes and I must do the spinach.
I'll come and give you a hand.
No, you won't.
Giles!
Tete-a-tetes are not very healthy things at present. You keep out of the kitchen and keep away from my wife.
But really, look
You
here.
keep away from my wife, Red. She's not going to be the next victim.
So that's what you think of me.
I've already said so, haven't I? There's a killer loose in this house, and it seems to me you fit the bill.
I'm not the only one to fit the bill.
I don't see who else does.
How blind you are. Or do you just pretend to be blind?
I tell you, I'm looking out for my wife's sake.
So am I. I'm not going to leave you alone with her.
What?
Please go, Chris.
I'm not going.
Oh, please go, Christopher. I mean it.
I shan't be far away.
Molly, what's all this? You must be crazy. Perfectly prepared to shut yourself up in the kitchen with a homicidal maniac.
He isn't.
You've only got to look at him to see that he's balmy.
He isn't. He's just helpless, that's all. I tell you, Giles, he isn't dangerous. I know he is dangerous. And anyway, I can look after myself.
That's what Mrs. Boyle said.
Oh, Giles, don't!
Look here. What is there between you and that wretched boy?
What do you mean? There's nothing between us.
Perhaps you've met him before. Perhaps you suggested to him to come up here, and you'd pretend to meet for the first time. All cooked up between you, was it?
Giles, are you out of your mind?
It's rather odd, isn't it, that he should come to an out-of-the-way place like this?
No odder than Miss Casewell, Major Midkiff, and Mrs. Boyd should.
I read once in the paper that these homicidal cases were able to attract women. Looks as though it were true.
Where did you first know it? How long has this been going on?
Giles, you are being absolutely ridiculous. I never set eyes on Christopher Wren until you arrived yesterday.
That's what you say. Perhaps you've been running up to London to meet him on the sly.
You know quite well I haven't been up to London for weeks.
You haven't been up to London for weeks. Is that so?
What on earth do you mean? It's quite true.
Is it? Then what's this? This was one of the gloves you were wearing yesterday. I picked it up this afternoon while talking to Sergeant Trevor. See what's inside it? A London bus ticket.
Oh, that
So it seems you not only went to the village yesterday, you went to London as well.
is... All right, I
Whilst
went...
I was safely away racing around the countryside.
Whilst you were racing round the countryside?
Come on, admit it. You went to London.
All right, I went to London, but so did you.
What?
So did you. You brought back an evening paper.
Where did you get that?
It was in your overcoat pocket.
Anyone could have put it there.
Did they? No, you were in London.
All right, I went to London. But I didn't go to meet a woman there.
Didn't you? Are you sure you didn't?
What do you mean?
Now go away, don't come near me.
Molly, what's the matter?
Oh, don't touch me.
Did you go to London yesterday to meet Christopher Wren?
Of course not. Don't be a fool.
Then why did you go?
I shouldn't tell you that. Perhaps I've forgotten why I went.
Molly, you're different all of a sudden. I feel as though I don't know you anymore.
Perhaps you never did know me. How long have we been married? A year? But you don't really know anything about me. What I've done, or thought, or felt, or suffered before you know me.
Molly, you're crazy.
Oh, all right then, I'm crazy. Why not? Maybe it's fun to be crazy.
Molly, what are you talking about? It's only... I do hope you don't, but I'm not saying it to the more than you mean. One is so apt in this. A lover's quarrels. Quarrels. That's good. Quite so. I have been through all this before. When I was a younger man. I shouldn't say as the poet says. I've not been married long now, I do. It's none of your business, Mr. Parity. No business at all. But I just came to say that the sergeant cannot find his skis. And I'm afraid it's very annoying.
Christopher.
What's that? He wonders if you're by chance told him, Mr. Ralston. No, of course not.
Mr. Ralston, Mrs. Ralston, did either of you remove the skis from the cupboard where we put them?
Certainly not.
Somebody's taken them.
What made you happen to look for them?
The snow is still lying. I need help here. Reinforcements. Well, I was going to ski over to the station and knock a hand and report the situation.
And now you can't. Dear. Someone has seen to it that your son today shall do it. But there may be another reason.
Yeah? What?
There's someone may want to get away. What made you say Christopher just now?
Nothing.
So I got up to what you told to tell me. Very, very interesting.
Is this true, Mrs. Ralston?
Oh, thank goodness you haven't gone after all.
Did you take my skis, Mr. Wren?
Your skis, Sergeant? No. Why should I?
Mrs. Ralston seemed to think...
Mr. Wren is very fond of skiing. I thought he'd just taken them to get a little exercise.
Exercise?
Now listen, you people, this is a very serious matter. Somebody has removed my only chance of communication with the outside world. I want everybody in here. At once.
I think Mrs. Kingsworth has gone to her room.
I'll get her.
I left Major Metcalf in the night. Major Metcalf! He is not there now. I'll try and find him.
Hello, wanting me?
It's a question of my skis.
Skis?
Mr. Ralston.
Miss Casewell, did either of you remove a pair of skis from the cupboard back by the kitchen door?
No, why should I?
Nevertheless, they are gone. Which way did you go to your room?
By the back stairs.
Then you passed the cupboard door.
If you say so, I have no idea where your skis are.
You were actually in that cupboard today.
Yes, I was.
At the time Mrs. Boyle was killed.
Time Mrs. Boyle was killed, I'd gone down into the cellar.
Did you see the skis when you passed through?
I haven't the least idea.
Didn't you see them there?
Can't remember.
Oh, you must remember if the skis were there then.
No good shouting at me, young fellow. I wasn't thinking about any skis. I was interested in the cellars. The architecture of this place is very interesting, so I can't tell you whether your skis were there or not.
You realize you had a very excellent opportunity of taking them.
Yes, yes. I grant you that if I wanted to, that is.
The question is, where are they now?
Ought to be able to find them if we all set to. Not a case of hunt the thimble. Whacking great things, skis. Suppose we all set to.
Not quite so fast, Major Metcalf. That may be, you know, what we are meant to do.
I don't get you.
Well, I'm in the position now I have to put myself in the mind of a crazy, cunning brain. I've got to ask myself what he wants us to do, and what he himself is planning to do next. I've got to try to stay one step ahead of him, because if I don't, there's going to be another death.
You still don't believe that?
Yes, Miss Hazel, I do. 3 little blind mice, 2 mice cancelled out, a third left to be dealt with. There are 6 of you here listening to me, and one of you is a killer. One of you is a killer, I don't know which yet, but I shall. And another of you is the killer's suspected victim. That's the person I'm speaking to. Mrs. Boyle had out on me. Well, Boyle is dead. You, whoever you are holding out on me. Well, I wouldn't, because you're in danger. Nobody who's killed twice is going to hesitate to kill a 3rd time. And as it is, I don't know which one of you it is who needs protection. Oh, come on now. Anybody who has anything, however slight, to reproach themselves with that bygone business had better come out with it. All right, you won't. I'll get the killer, I've no doubt of that. But it may be too late for one of you. I'll tell you another thing. The killer's enjoying this little game. Yes, he's enjoying himself a great deal. All right, you can go.
Talking of chicken, dear lady, have you ever tried chicken livers on toast? Thickly spread with foie gras, or just a thin Russian bacon, and just a spoon of French mustard? I shall accompany you to the kitchen, and we will see what we can concoct together. A charming occupation.
I'm not with my wife, Caravicino.
Your husband is afraid for you, Mrs. Ross. It is my sadistic tendencies, he fears, not my dishonorable one. Alas, what an inconvenience the husband always is.
I'm sure that Giles doesn't think.
He is very wise. No chance. Can I prove to you, or to him, or to adult subject, that I am not a homicidal maniac? It's so difficult to prove a negative. But suppose that I am really...
Oh, don't.
But don't you like it? It's such a gay little tune. She has up her tail with a coloring knife. Delicious. Just as a child with a dog. Cruel little things, children. Some of them never grow up.
Stop frightening my wife at once.
It's silly of me, but don't you see? I found her. Her face was all purple. Forget.
Yes, it is difficult to forget. And you do not seem to be the forgetting kind.
I must go to the kitchen. There's the... Oh, the biting potatoes are all going to pieces. Please, Giles?
What did you say to the lady to upset her?
Sergeant, it's just a little innocent fun. I've always found a little joke.
There's fun that's nice, and there's fun that's not so nice.
Don't you wonder what you mean by that subject?
I've been doing a little wondering about you, sir.
Indeed.
I've been wondering about that car of yours and how it overturned in a snowdrift so conveniently.
Inconveniently, you mean? Don't you, Sergeant?
I guess that rather depends on how you're looking at it. Just where were you bound for, by the way, when you had this accident?
I was on my way to see a friend.
In this neighborhood?
Not so very far from here.
And what was the name and address of this friend?
Now, what is it? Sergeant what? Does that really matter to you? I mean, it has nothing to do with this predicament, does it?
We always like the fullest information. Now, what did you say this friend's name was?
I didn't say.
No, you didn't say, and it appears you're not going to say. Now, that's very interesting.
There might be so many of you. And the more discretion, it is just
Rather old to be running around for ladies at your time of life, aren't you?
Yes, sir. I am perhaps not quite so old as I do.
Now, that's just what I've been thinking, sir.
What?
That you might not be as old as you try to look. There are a lot of people trying to look younger nowadays. And if someone goes around trying to look older, well, it does make one ask oneself why.
Having asked questions of so many, do you ask questions of yourself as well? I wouldn't do it with things a bit unclear.
Well, I might get an answer for myself. I don't get many from you.
Oh, well, you try again. And that is if you have any more questions to ask.
One or two. Where were you coming from last night?
That is simple. London.
What address in London?
I always stay at a rate hotel.
Very nice, too, I'm sure. What's your permanent address?
My dislike permanent.
What's your business or profession?
I play the market.
Stockbroker?
No, yes, I'm
Enjoying this little game, aren't you? And sure of yourself, too. But I wouldn't be too sure. You're mixed up in a murder case, and don't you forget it. Murder isn't just fun and games.
Not even this murder? Dear me, Sergeant Trotter, you're very serious. I've always said that the police have no sense of humor. Is this inquisition over for the moment?
For the moment, yes.
So let's not look for a key in the drawing room. Perhaps someone has hidden them in the grand piano.
Oh, just a minute, please.
Were you speaking to me?
Yes, perhaps you come have a seat.
Well, what do you want?
I'd like to have a little information from you, please.
What do you want to know?
Full name.
Leslie Marguerite Catherine Casewell.
Catherine.
I spell it with a K.
Quite so. And your address?
Villa Bergosa, Pine Hill, Majorca.
That's in Italy.
It's an island, a Spanish island.
I see. And what's your address here in England?
Care of Morgan's Bay, Leadenhall Street.
No other England address?
No.
And you've been staying since your arrival?
At the Library Hotel, Knightsbridge.
And what brought you into Monkswell Manor?
I wanted somewhere quiet in the country
I see. And how long did you, or do you, propose to remain here?
until I finished what I came here to do.
And what was that? And what was that?
Eh?
And what was it you came here to do?
I beg your pardon, I was thinking of something else.
You haven't answered my question.
I really don't see why I should. It's a matter that concerns me alone.
All the same.
No, I don't think we'll argue about it.
Would you mind telling me your age?
Not in the least. It's on my passport. I'm 24.
24.
You were thinking I was older, but it's quite true.
Is there anyone in this country who can vouch for you?
My bank will reassure you to my financial position. I can also refer you to a solicitor, a very discreet man. But I'm in no position to offer you a social reference. I've lived most of my life abroad.
In Majorca.
In Majorca and other places.
Were you born abroad?
No, I left England when I was 13.
You know, Miss Casewell, I can't quite make you out.
Does it matter?
I don't know. What are you doing here?
It seems to worry you.
It does worry me. Now, you say you went abroad when you were 13.
Well, 13, thereabouts.
Was your name Casewell then?
It's my name now.
Well, what was your name then? Come on, tell me.
What are you trying to prove?
I want to know what your name was when you left England.
It's a long time ago. I've forgotten.
Oh, there are things one doesn't forget.
Possibly.
Unhappiness, despair.
I dare say.
What's your real name?
I told you, Leslie Marguerite Catherine.
Catherine! What the hell are you doing here?
I wish I'd never come here.
I always thought the police weren't allowed to give people the third degree.
It was merely an interrogation.
You seem to have upset her. What did he do?
No, it's nothing. It's just all this murder. It's so horrible. I'll go up to my room.
It's impossible. I can't believe it.
What can't you believe? There's 6 impossible things before breakfast, like the Red Queen.
Yes, it's quite like that.
Dear me, Sergeant. You look as though you'd seen a ghost.
Well, I've seen something I ought to have seen before. Blind as a bat I've been. But now I think we may be able to get somewhere.
The police have a clue.
Yes, Mr. Endlass, the police have a clue. Do you know everybody as I went with him?
Giles and Muller in the kitchen. I've been helping Major Metcalf to look for your skis. We've looked at the most entertaining places, but all to no avail. I don't know where Pervicini is.
I'll get him, you get the others. Mr. Paravicini. Mr. Paravicini. Paravicini.
Yes, Sergeant. The poor policeman has lost his skis and doesn't know where to find them. You leave them alone and God come home dragging them. No. It's behind them.
What is all this?
Sit down, Major. Mrs. Ralston.
Must I come now? It's very inconvenient.
There are more important things than meals, Mrs. Ralston. Mrs. Boyle, for instance, won't want another meal.
It's a very tactless way of putting things.
Well, I'm sorry, but I want cooperation, and I intend to get it. Mr. Ralston, would you go up and get Miss Caswell? She went up to her room. Tell her it'll be for a few minutes.
Have your skis been found, Sergeant?
No, Mrs. Ralston, but I may say I have a very shrewd suspicion of who took them and why they were taken. I won't make that clear just yet.
Please don't. I always think explanations should be saved to the end. And that exciting last chapter, you know.
This is not a game.
And now there, I think you're wrong. I think it is a game to somebody. You think the murderer is enjoying himself? Maybe.
What's happening?
Sit down, Ms. Caswell. Mrs. Ralston. Now listen. At the time Mrs. Boyle was killed, I took statements from you all. These statements related to your positions at the time the murder was committed. These statements were as follows. Mrs. Ralston was in the kitchen preparing vegetables. Mr. Paravicini was in the drawing room playing the piano. Mr. Ralston upstairs, Mr. Rand ditto. Miss Caswell in the library, and Major Metcalf in the cellar.
Correct.
Well, those are the statements you made. At the time, I had no means of checking on these statements. They may be true, they may not. To put it quite clearly, 5 of these statements are true and 1 is false. 5 of you are telling the truth and 1 of you is a liar. Now I have a plan that may help me determine who the liar is. And once I know who lied to me, then I know who the murderer is.
Not necessarily. Someone may have lied for some other reason.
I rather doubt that.
Well, what's the idea? I thought you just said you had no means of checking these statements.
No, but supposing everybody was to go through these actions a second time.
That one, Chestnut, reconstruction of the crime.
Not a reconstruction of the crime, Mr. Paravicini. The reconstruction of the movements of apparently innocent persons.
What do you expect to learn from that?
You will forgive me if I don't make that clear just at the moment.
You want a repeat performance?
Yes, Mr. Wilson, I do.
It's a trap.
What do you mean it's a trap?
It's a trap, I know it is.
I only want people to do exactly what they did before.
But I don't see. I simply can't see. What you hope to find out by making people do the things they did before. I think it's just nonsense.
Do you, Mr. Wren?
Well, you can count me out. I'm too busy in the kitchen.
I can't count anybody out. Why? One might almost believe you're all guilty by the looks of you. Why are you all so unwilling?
Of course, what you say goes, Sergeant. We'll all cooperate. Hey, Molly?
Very well.
Red? Miss Gaiswell?
Yes.
Paravicini?
Oh, yes, I consent.
Metcalf? Yes. Are we all to do exactly what we did before?
The same actions will be performed, yes.
So I shall return the drum. And with one finger, pick out the signature tune of the murder.
Not quite so fast, Mr. Paravicini. Do you play the piano, Mr. Ralston?
Yes, I do.
And do you know the tune of 3 Blind Mice?
Don't we all know it?
Then could you pick it up on the piano with one finger as Mr. Paravicini did? Good. Then please go in the drawing room, sit at the piano, and be ready to play when I give you the signal.
But Sergeant, I understood we were all to repeat that former role.
The same actions will be performed, but not necessarily by the same people. Thank you, Mrs. Ralston.
I don't see the point.
There is a point, Mr. Ralston. It is the means of checking up on the original statements, and maybe one statement in particular. Now then, listen as I give each of you your new stations. Mr. Wren, I need you to go into the kitchen and keep an eye on Mrs. Ralston's cooking for her. I hear you're quite fond of cooking. Mr. Paravicini, would you mind going up to Mr. Wilson's bedroom, Mr. Wren's bedroom, by the back stairs, the most convenient way? And Miss Caswell, would you mind going down to the cellars? Mr. Wren will show you the way. And Major Metcalf, could you go up to Mr. Ralston's bedroom and try the extension telephone? And I hate to ask it of you, but I need someone to reproduce my own actions. Rather chilly job, but I figure you're the toughest person here.
And what are you going to do?
You know, I'm enacting the part of Mrs. Boyle.
Taking a bit of risk, aren't you?
You will all stay in your places until you hear me call you.
Partner games.
No objection to my wearing a coat.
No, I should advise it, sir. Here, take my torch. Mrs. Ralston, count to 10 and then begin to play. Mrs. Ralston, Mrs. Ralston.
Yes, what is it? You're looking very pleased with yourself. Have you got what you wanted?
I've got exactly what I wanted.
Then you know who the murderer is.
Yes, I know.
Which of them?
You ought to know too, Mrs. Ralston.
Me?
Yes, you've been extraordinarily foolish, you know. You've run a risk of being killed yourself by holding out on me. As a result, you've been in serious danger more than once.
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, come now, Mrs. Ralston. We policemen aren't quite so dumb as you think. I've known all along you had first-hand knowledge of the Longridge Farm affair. And you knew Mrs. Boyle was the magistrate concerned. Why didn't you speak up and say so?
I don't know. I wanted to forget. Forget?
Your maiden name is Waring.
Yes.
Ms. Waring, you taught school at the elementary where those children went.
Yes.
Isn't it true that Jimmy, the child who died, managed to get a letter posted to you? The letter begged for help. Help from his kind young school teacher. But you never answered that letter.
I couldn't. I never got it.
You just didn't bother.
That's not true. I was ill. I went down with pneumonia that very day. The letter was put aside with others, and it was weeks afterwards until I found it with a lot of other letters. And by then, the poor child was dead. Dead. Where do you want me to do something? Hoping, gradually losing hope. It's haunted me ever since. If only I had known. If only I hadn't been ill. It's monstrous that such a thing should happen.
Yes, it's monstrous.
I thought police didn't carry revolvers.
The police don't. I'm not a policeman, Mrs. Ralston. When you thought I was a policeman because I rang from a call box and said I was calling from police headquarters and a Sergeant Toronto was on his way down. I cut the telephone line before I came through the front door. Do you know who I am, Mrs. Ralston? I'm Georgie. I'm Jimmy's brother, Georgie.
No!
You better not scream, Mrs. Ralston, because if you do, I shall have to fire this revolver. And I'd like to talk to you for a little. I said I'd like to talk to you for a little. Jimmy died. That nasty, cruel woman killed him. They put her in prison. Prison wasn't good enough for her. I said I'd kill her one day, and I did too. In the fog. It was great fun. I hope Jimmy knows. I'm going to kill them all when I've grown up. That's what I said. Because grown-ups can do anything they like. I'm going to kill you in a minute.
You better not. You'll never get away safely, you know.
Somebody has taken my skis, and I can't find them. Oh, but I don't care if I get away or not. I'm tired. But it's been great fun watching you all and pretending to be a policeman.
That revolver will make a lot of noise.
Will, rather, won't it? Better do it the old-fashioned way and take you by the neck. The last little mouse in the trap, Mrs. Ralston.
Georgie, you know me, don't you? Don't you remember the farm and the animals? And the little pig? And the day the bull chased us across the field? And the dogs?
Dogs?
Yes, Barton Plain.
Kathy?
Yes, you remember me now, don't you?
Kathy, it really is you. What are you doing here?
I came to England to find you. I didn't recognize you until you twirled your head the way you always used to. Yes, Georgie, you always did it. Come with me, Georgie. You're coming with me.
Where are we going?
It's all right. I'm taking you someplace where they'll look after you. See that you won't do any more harm.
darling. Whoever thought he was Trot?
He's mad. Quite mad.
And you?
I wasn't expecting it all.
You should have told me.